and 1 and 2 and 3. Hi everyone, you may have noticed in the last couple of videos it's been all about the skill saw. First we made a crosscut jig for the skill saw, and then we made a rip fence for the skill saw, and there's a reason for that. Later this week we're going to use a skill saw to build a piece of furniture. Just a skill saw, a drill, and a sander, and that's it, nothing else. So with these simple jigs that we're building, we're going to be able to do some pretty cool stuff. But today what I want to do is show you how you can build a very simple table saw with your skill saw in a matter of minutes. Alright, next I'm just going to take those two pieces that I ripped down, and this is going to act as our fence. So I'm just going to put glue on one edge, and then I'm going to put it in place, making sure the bottoms are flush right here, and run a couple screws in it to hold it while the glue's drying. So you know I've cut this piece right here 24 inches by 21 inches. The size isn't really important. I just want a nice little work surface here. Now I've taken my T-square and I'm going to draw a straight line on this. And this is where I want the slot to be cut for my saw blade to poke through this piece. And at this point I'm going to be pretty careful about getting that blade lined up. So again, I'll just throw my square on here, and I've already checked that the blade and the bed are lined up pretty well. So I'm just going to line that up, get a good spot for it. And now from this point, this gets a little bit tricky, because what you want to do is make sure you hold this thing in place, get it started, and then slowly plunge down into the material. And that'll give us our slot that we need. Now I'm going to do that a couple of times just to get that slot a little bit wider than that, so when the blade is turning from the other side it's not touching the wood. And again, I'm just going to be really careful about doing it. Pull that back and do it again. Right, now I need to have a way to mount my saw to my work surface, or to the table. So to do that, I'm just going to take a 3/16 inch drill bit and drill 4 holes, one at each corner of this, making sure if it has a bevel on the top or back, I stay away from that. Okay, with my holes drilled, I'm just going to plunge that into the slot that we made before. And I'm going to get it pretty well lined up just by eyeballing it. And then I'm going to put a screw in one corner. Okay, I've got my screw in, and what I really want to do is make sure that this blade right here is at a perfect 90-degree angle from the front of the saw itself. So I can put an auxiliary fence on here and other jigs later. Now you don't have to do that, but for my purposes I'm going to take the time to make sure that blade is lined up at a perfect 90-degree angle to the front edge of this plywood. And make sure those two things are lined up right. And then run my screws in. Alright, with everything lined up, I just took a zip tie, depressed the trigger and zip tied it shut, and then I plugged the cord into a power strip with an on-off switch, so I can use that as my on-off switch. And then for me, I'm just going to mount this to my table. It could be mounted to a couple of sawhorses. If you do mount them to sawhorses, make sure you're screwing them down and securing it well. You don't want the sawhorses to rock out on you when you're cutting something. Now because I didn't have any screws that were less than 3/4 inch, mine are protruding through here. So you could either file that down with a file, or in my case I'm just going to use an angle grinder with a sanding disc on it after I turn the power on. Alright, with that done, all I'm going to do now is take that piece that we screwed together earlier, that little L shape, stick it out there, pass it a little bit, and clamp it to the blade. Now I don't want to, I got to be careful at this point because it's easy to get this off. So I want that blade is set up perfect right now. And then I'm just going to add a little glue to this little scrap piece here. And I'm going to set it up there so it's square to the fence. So basically just creating a T-square of sorts. You know, like I said before, not the perfect solution, but if it's going to get me woodworking, I'll do it. So this is a real quick way to build a table saw. It's handy. You can do some real basic table saw functions with it. And then in another video, we'll do some auxiliary tables for it, and I'll show you how those work. And then putting all these skill saw jigs that we've built over the last few videos, we're going to put those together and make something cool.